Actually, John Foster Dulles is more responsible for the U.S. involvement in Vietnam than any single individual. Here's the story.
That's quite an indictment.
It really is. When you think of everything that spun out of that, we're still living with the results. So, in 1954, there was a conference in Geneva to decide what to do about Indochina. As the conference was opening, the French garrison collapsed there, and Ho Chi Minh's forces took over Dien Bien Phu and proclaimed their right to control at least a part of what we now call, or later called, North Vietnam. So they had this big conference in Geneva. The Chinese were there, the French were there, the British were there, the local powers were there, and John Foster Dulles represented the United States. It only took him a few days to realize that at this conference, one of the results was definitely going to be an agreement that since nobody could stop Ho Chi Minh on the ground, he had earned a right to a little piece of territory in Indochina. When Foster Dulles realized this, he got up and left. It's the only time in American history that an American Secretary of State has walked out of a major diplomatic conference in the middle. He realized that the French, the British, and everyone else was ready to concede. Actually, it was Churchill who said, "The loss of the fortress must be faced." We couldn't hold on to it. You have to admit the facts on the ground. Foster Dulles didn't do this. He flew home. The first thing he did was call in his brother and say, "Those wimpy Europeans can't hang on to Vietnam. We're going to do it. We're going to crush Ho Chi Minh. I want you to start a covert operation to turn back the tide in Vietnam, get rid of Ho Chi Minh, and impose our rule in that part of the world." That was when he hired Edward Lansdale, who had been a covert operative in other parts of Southeast Asia, including in the Philippines. And that began the operation that built and built up to exactly what we were doing in the 60s, which is to stop Ho Chi Minh, to get rid of him. It never occurred to them that this was a person with very deep roots in his own country and that it was only going to waste away our own security by trying to crush such a popular figure. So Foster Dulles, think of it this way. If that one guy, John Foster Dulles, had not made that one decision while flying back from Geneva to Washington, I'm not going to accept this treaty, I'm going to fight against it, we could have avoided the entire American involvement in Vietnam.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.